in the KUAM News Zoom room. Good morning, Senator.
Hi, good morning, Chris, Bree, Jason. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Senator.
Hi there. You know, I'm messing with my computer, so I'm holding my phone today, and I don't want to keep it shaky. So I hope I'm coming across all right there.
Nope.
Not facing the right direction, not sideways either.
Nope, you look good. Sound good.
All right. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and get into this Bill 173-36, Senator Moylan. This is a bill that modernizes election-related issues.
Yes. So we were working with the Guam Election Commission, and these folks have put together their plans on how to modernize their department, or the Guam Election Commission. They put together their election comparative analysis report. And this report can be found on their website as well. So bit by bit, we're adjusting the Guam Election Commission laws to meet the needs or modernize their process to improve the voting experience and hopefully attract more voters to come during the election time. So 173 addresses some of those changes that they wanted to make. And we had the public hearing yesterday. So just to summarize some of the things about Bill 173, first, it addresses the cancellation of the primary election for certain circumstances. Specifically, a good example is if on the Democrat and the Republican side, you're looking at the legislature and they only have 15 each candidates running. So if that's the case, then they can save money and save some time by eliminating the primary election for that purpose if they have the minimum amount, or rather, if they don't go over the minimum amount of candidates necessary, or the 15 is our number for that. So that went over well. There are some changes that Election Commission wanted to put into the wordings, but what they're looking at is just to make it more effective. We don't need the primary, it's not necessary. This would include also boards and commissions and the Office of Public Accountability and the Attorney General's office as well. So we can get right into the general election and expedite the whole process. On average, for the primary election, the cost for their office is about $375,000, not including all the overtime that's needed as well to count these ballots. So that's one part of 173. They also have, the second part is regarding the electoral, or rather the polling places. They wanted to make the law more clear that those running for candidacy during the election time at the polling places stay within their boundaries. Nobody wants to come face to face with somebody running or their member of their team saying, please vote for this person. Remember us when you get into the booth. If they're violating the distancing from the polling place. So they clarified that better, the 100 feet line. And they also clarified that they can use Guam Police Department if necessary to enforce these requirements. So that's another part on 173. There's some other definition parts that they just needed to make clear, and to include also another part where we're talking about the nicknames that candidates want to use on the ballot. And when you're using your official name right on the top line, it must be your official name. So we just needed clarity on that as well. It gets into also the off-island absentee ballots, when they can start counting that to help expedite the process. And then it also gets into the Washington delegate seats, where right now, there is no public law that discusses what happens if this seat, for whatever reason, becomes vacant at the time the sitting delegate is there. So the concern was, as we learned kind of from the mayor's past experience with the mayor's situation, and where they didn't have the municipal planning council in place, and we were kind of stuck there. So we addressed this as well, to have the election, and they wanted to, the election commission did make recommendations on the bill as well, because the bill as written says only if the vacancy occurs prior to 8 months before the date of the next general election. So the election commission's recommendation, and we'll take this back to the committee, to move this up even sooner. During the public hearing, the election commission was discussing they needed, I believe, 60 days to get themselves ready for a special election. So we're going to go back to committee on this to try to shorten that period. But this could be important, maybe an oversight. You know, we're hoping nothing like that ever happens. But if it does, then we have some good measures in line. Some other questions brought up at the public hearing on 173 is this organic, right? Is this organic that we can cancel the primary election based on a Guam law that says if you don't have many candidates over the minimum number of seats to fill, then you don't have to have the primary election? Or can we fill the delegate seat if for whatever reason that delegate seat is vacant? We have an election. So the answer is yes, we can. The Organic Act does not address a mandatory that a primary election is to happen, nor does the Organic Act address or the federal government address if that seat becomes vacant, how do we fill it following their laws, the federal government laws. It's organic that we can do this, and we had some good discussion on that yesterday as well. So I'm looking forward to revising this slightly in committee and moving it forward to session floor. That's 173.
Wow, that's a lot. I know you mentioned the mayor's senator, and just wondering if you could shed a little bit more light on this meeting that we're tracking with, I think, is it all of the mayors and Congressman Nicholas and you relative to municipal funds from the American Rescue Plan? We heard just from a few of the mayors that meeting's taking place today. So what exactly is that about?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So this is just a continuation of the conversation I had with our delegate, Congressman Mike Nicholas, in Washington at his office there a few weeks back. And so we were discussing, of course, the American Rescue Plan and the funding available. One of the subjects the congressman brought up, Mike Nicholas, was how other territories, I believe it's Puerto Rico, and also he looked at Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas. There's another one too, but for example, let's just talk about a Saipan situation where they received their American Rescue Plan money, and then it was also in the plan on how this money can go to the municipalities there in Saipan, broken down from Saipan, Tinian, Rhoda, and their different mayors. Now, when the money was provided to Guam, the American Rescue Plan did not dictate that. But in the spirit of the law and what the plan were hoping to do, like what they did at the other territories, in my discussion with Congressman Nicholas as well, is this should be done for Guam as too, for the mayors to be provided their own share to work with their own municipalities, rather than the federal government or the local government at Adelup dictating how this money will be spent in the villages. Let's allow the mayors to have that authority. They know exactly what they need, whether it be roads or some other services or street lights, or they know their community the best. And we're hoping by pointing this out to the mayors, and we're starting with the president, Mayor Jesse Alec, to further discuss this so he clearly understands, and then possibly bringing that back to the mayor's council with more information on how this actually works in the American Rescue Plan and other territories by the money being given directly to the municipalities. And I'm hoping they would agree on getting that, and maybe we can voice this concern to the governor so she can feel confident that the mayors do have a plan, they do know what they need for their villages, and they can expedite that payment and get things going with removing rubbish, taking care of their dogs, or however they feel most fit to service their community, and that they need the money as soon as possible so they can get these things going and take action. So this afternoon, I believe it's around 2 o'clock, we'll be having just a virtual further discussion about that with Congressman St. Nicholas, Mayor Alec, and myself. And I'm sure we can invite you to, and maybe if we have other questions, we'll be happy to discuss that at this time. So it's just a continuation of an informal meeting that I've had with the congressman, and now we're just bringing some of that discussion back to our mayor.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it, Senator. I just think it's interesting that we have these well, there's like no conversation out of Adelup about American Rescue Plan, right? It's actually crickets. What's quieter than crickets? Holy Week. It's like Holy Week at Adelup with this ARP funding. Yeah, and you got the congressman coming out saying, hey, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this with the money. So it's really interesting to me that Adelup doesn't say anything, and the congressman is just sitting there picking all these different ways we can use that money, and Lord knows, God, our people need it. They need money in their hands right now. And so I think it's very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this money has been here for some time.
God, for real.
And I think the 36 Guam legislature did what they can to really push for a plan coming from Adelup. And we've been transparent with our plan to Adelup on how we hope we can share this money based on what we feel or what we hear from our constituents, to include the mayors. That was included as part of our plan too. But knowing specifically in the American Rescue Plan by the federal government, U.S. Treasury gave territories their ability for the municipalities to have this funding directly to them. So, because the federal government doesn't want to dictate let's use PD, right? How they should use that money. Nor should the legislature, or more importantly, the governor dictate to the villages how they should use that money. But rather, we should entrust and empower our mayors to get on the ball. Here's your funding. Use it the best way possible. And they would have to answer to their constituents in their village. And I think if they don't do it right, they're going to feel a lot of heat from their community, because they live in this community. They want their village to have everything necessary, and this is an opportunity finally getting their hands on some money. Amen. But it's not being passed down. It's still sitting in this trust fund, wondering what if money could talk, right? It's saying, get me out of here and let me help the people.
If that money could talk, please get me out of this prison and this bank. I just got all this interest falling on my head. Get me out to the people. I just need to be spent.
So since we don't know what the governor's going to be doing with the ARP money, except for the fact that she is going to build a new hospital, does the legislature know where exactly she spent some of the money? I mean, I know early on when she got back from D.C., she said that she had gave some money for quarantine, for bereavement, and for a couple other things. Is there any sort of, communication that you guys are aware of on where some of the money has at least gone to?
Sure, and we were able to get some information from that. And the only way I know how, now that it was properly schooled in writing a letter regarding a FOIA request, that's the only way we're going to continue to get information out of this administration, unfortunately. And in our last committee as a whole, during our last session, when we talked about the hospital and the funding for that, Director Byrne was very open and discussing the $300 million. And I asked him about their meeting they have when they went to Washington, D.C. to discuss this with the Treasury Department. Mm-hmm. I was interested to see what formal document or how did we present our request from Guam asking to use half of the ARP money for the purpose of building the new hospital. Where is your documentation that we submit to the Treasury Department of U.S. Treasury? My understanding from that conversation was basically it was in the discussion with these members of that department, and it was well understood that Guam wanted to use the money for that purpose, And in fact, they were saying that we're the only territory, or the only request that, or the only person or the territory that made such a request. They never had that request done before, so which I found interesting. But at the same time, we don't follow up with a letter. We don't follow up with further discussion. And I asked that question as well to find out that the administration is looking at a return trip in November for an update. But in the meantime, that's, what are we, October? Yeah, we're going, it's just next month. But this should be ongoing to answer the questions. We should already know at what place is the Treasury Department feeling if they're going to allow Guam to utilize this money from the ARP fund for something that is not really the structure of the building, the damage, and the poor case of the structure itself is not necessarily because of the pandemic. 40 years of rot and leaky roof can't be blamed on a pandemic, but we're asking for an exemption on this. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little concerned about how we're going about asking this while we're keeping this money in the bank again, and it's not being passed out to the people of Guam. I would think I would want that answer, a definite answer, sooner than later, so I know what we could exactly do with this money. If I can't use it to build a hospital, well, then I better use it for something to help the people of Guam, to help the businesses survive, to help the people survive, and our government to continue to provide their functions. Because the longer we wait, that answer I think would just be no. But we lost all this precious time that we can be using to help the people of Guam. So we, what did they say on TV? Stay tuned for the latest and best that's coming out from Adelup on what's going to happen with this $300 million put aside.
Senator,
I have no idea.
There's a report, though, with the budget law, you guys, with the budget law, are they obligated to report, is it by next month or something? What they spend the ARP on?
They should. So we'll see that happens, right? As well as the emergency purchase, sole source purchase as well. We're looking at least at those reports, and then we can kind of track this money where it goes to. So this is what we had to. This is how we had to deal with. If the administration calls this transparency, it's not really there. And if you're forcing the hand of the Guam legislature to be hard and say put it into mandate and demand that we see these reports, that's okay. We can do that, but why do that? When we all want the best for the people of Guam. It's unfortunate on how this is being played out.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing to stop the Lou and Josh administration from preemptively telling us what they spend the money on. In fact, own it. People complaining out here that they don't know what you're spending the money on, tell them and say, this is what we're spending the money on. You're welcome. Thank you, Senator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good luck in your Zoom.
All right. I appreciate that.
Right on.
Take care.
Let's take a quick break, and we're coming back with Tatuha Mayor Luis Rivera right here on The Link. It's Tuesday, October 12th. Good morning.